Labour MP for Hull East, Carl Turner. A very good morning to you, Carl.
Good morning, Julia. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks very much for joining us. Most of your colleagues are too fit to come on, so it's always nice to have a Labour MP willing to come on the show. Keir Starmer has been out defending his decision today to vote in the NEC to block Andy Burnham from leaving the Manchester mayoralty to stand in this Horton Garden by-election, saying, look, this is about funds, this is about your risk of losing a mayoralty as well. Is that a fair reason to have blocked Andy Burnham?
Well, look, I think the PM was in a very difficult position, actually. I think he couldn't really do right for doing wrong in this situation. I think the excuse will be that it was about the fact that a by-election for the mayoralty would be required, and that's costly, not just for the Labour Party, but for the taxpayer.
The knives are out, the tea is spilled, and the red roses of Westminster are looking a bit more like a scene from Julius Caesar, only with more polyester suits and fewer togas. Welcome back to the British Report, where the only thing more volatile than the pound is the internal temperature of the Labour Party. You might think being Prime Minister is all about grand speeches and state dinners, but for Sir Keir Starmer, it's currently about checking his back for fingerprints every time he walks through the lobby. We are witnessing a full-blown civil war in the North, and the King of the North himself, Andy Burnham, is at the very heart of a rebellion that makes a Sunday League football row look like a polite vicarage tea party. 50 Labour MPs have just signed a letter that essentially tells Keir Starmer his strategic brilliance is about as useful as a chocolate teapot, and the beneficiary of all this chaos, none other than a certain Mr. Nigel Farage. It is an absolute mess, and we've got the front row seats. Quick favour, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free. Takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks. If you did. Now back to the show. Let's set the scene. The Gorton and Denton by-election. On paper, it should be a straightforward Labour hold, the kind of seat where you could pin a red rosette on a golden retriever and it would still win by 10,000 votes. But then Andy Burnham, the man who has basically become the human embodiment of Greater Manchester, decides he wants back into the Westminster playground. He's tired of just being the mayor. He wants a seat at the big table. And why wouldn't he? He's popular, he's northern, and let's be honest, he's got better hair than half the cabinet. But instead of a welcome back party, Keir Starmer and the National Executive Committee, or the NEC for those who like their bureaucracy in three-letter acronyms, decided to slam the door, lock the bolt and put a no entry sign up. The NEC voted 8-1 to block Burnham from standing. Only Lucy Powell, the deputy leader, and a Manchester MP herself had the courage, or perhaps just the local loyalty, to vote in his favour. Imagine that, your own party's ruling body tells the most popular politician in the north of England that he's not qualified or appropriate for a seat. It's like Manchester City telling Kevin De Bruyne he's not quite ready for the first team and should probably stick to the reserves. The shockwaves from this decision didn't just rattle the windows of 10 Downing Street, they've set off a seismic event among the backbenchers. 50 Labour MPs, 50 have now signed a letter condemning this move. They aren't just miffed, they are incandescent. They've told Starmer directly that blocking Burnham is a real gift to Reform UK, and they aren't wrong. While Labour is busy tripping over its own shoelaces, Nigel Farage is standing on the sidelines with a pint of ale, watching the carnage with a grin that stretches from one side of the Thames to the other. The internal politics of the Labour Party are often compared to a broad church, but right now it feels more like a pub brawl where someone's just turned the lights off. Speaking of things going dark, let's look at why Starmer thinks he can justify this. Sir Keir Starmer's defence for this move is, in a word, procedural. He's playing the sensible accountant in a room full of emotional rebels. He claims that if Burnham were to stand for Parliament and win, it would trigger a mayoral by-election in Greater Manchester. And according to the PM, that's just not a good use of resources. He said, and I quote, with as much robotic precision as I can muster, Andy Burnham's doing a great job as the mayor, but having an election for the mayor of Manchester when it's not necessary would divert our resources. I don't want him in London where he can look at my chair with those hungry eyes.
Sir Keir Starmer said that he'd stop the boats. Instead, he stopped the votes. Not content with cancelling council elections for 4 million of us, with the help of some other senior Labour figures, he's managed to block Andy Burnham from standing in the Gorton and Denton by-election. Andy Burnham had until 5 p.m. on Saturday to throw his hat into the ring. He was supported by several Labour MPs: Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, Joe White, Carl Turner, Richard Bergen, even London Mayor Sadiq Khan. They all backed Burnham. Well, the clock was ticking. The 5 p.m. deadline approached, and then, for maximum drama, Burnham posted this bang on 5 p.m.
The price tag on this resource diversion is roughly £4.7 million, the cost of the last mayoral election. Now, in the grand scheme of government spending, £4.7 million is practically the loose change Starmer finds down the back of the sofa, but he's using it as a shield. He's framing this as a choice between essential elections and vanity projects. But the rebels aren't buying the Fiscal Responsibility Act. They see it for what it is, a tactical stitch-up designed to keep a potential rival in the wilderness of Manchester rather than the green benches of the Commons. The logic is a bit like a football manager refusing to sign a world-class striker because the bus fare to the stadium is too expensive. Everyone knows the real reason isn't the bus fare. It's because the manager is worried the striker will eventually take his job. By citing the £4.7 million cost, Starmer is trying to appeal to the taxpayer's wallet, but he's forgotten that voters generally prefer a candidate they actually like over a candidate who is cost-effective. If you think the Labour backbenchers are the only ones sharpening their tongues, wait until you see who's warming up on the right-hand side of the pitch. While Labour MPs are busy writing angry letters and Starmer is hiding behind the NEC rulebook, Nigel Farage is having the time of his life. Reform UK has been surging in the polls, feasting on the dissatisfaction of voters who feel the two main parties are just different flavours of the same bland porridge. In Gorton and Denton, the seat Burnham wanted, the competition is expected to be stiffer than a starched collar. Reform is coming at them from the right, and the Greens are nibbling away at the left. Farage has already announced that Reform will reveal its candidate for the by-election this Tuesday. He told a press conference in London with that characteristic "I told you so" smirk that his party's chances are considerably better now that Burnham has been sidelined, and he's not just blowing smoke. Polling from the Times suggests that senior Labour figures secretly expect to lose the seat now. Yes, you heard that right. The party in power is already preparing the "it wasn't our fault" excuses for a seat they should win in their sleep. By blocking Burnham, Starmer hasn't just snubbed a colleague, he's essentially handed Reform UK a megaphone. He's allowed Farage to frame the narrative as London elites versus the North. It's the same old story that won Brexit, and Labour seems determined to let history repeat itself. If Reform wins this seat, the treacherous MPs who signed that letter won't just be writing notes, they'll be calling for a new leader before the ink on the results is even dry. The threat of Reform is real, but the threat from within might be even more lethal. Let's look at the man himself, the mayor who would be king. Andy Burnham is a pro. He knows how to play the game. His reaction to the NEC decision was a masterclass in passive-aggressive politeness. He said he was disappointed and concerned about the potential impact on the party's future. He then hopped on social media to insist he would return with full focus to his mayoral job, urging unity against the divisive politics of Reform. On the surface, he's a team player. Underneath, he's a martyr. Every time Burnham is blocked by the Westminster bubble, his stock in the North goes up. He becomes the hero who was too dangerous for the London elite to handle. It's a brilliant position to be in. He gets to stay in his Manchester stronghold, collecting praise and sympathy, while Starmer takes the heat for being a control freak. The reality is that Burnham's lack of a seat in Westminster is the only thing keeping Starmer's premiership stable. You can't launch a leadership bid from a tram in Salford. You need to be in the room where it happens. By keeping Burnham out, Starmer has bought himself time, but he's also created a ghost that will haunt every single one of his policy failures. Every time the government drops in the polls, people will ask, what would Andy have done? And that, my friends, is a dangerous question for any Prime Minister. When we talk about 50 Labour MPs signing a letter, we aren't just talking about a few disgruntled backbenchers who didn't get a Christmas card from number 10. We are talking about a significant chunk of the Parliamentary Labour Party. Essentially saying, we don't trust your judgment, Keir. This isn't a ripple, it's a tidal wave. These signatories include heavyweights from the soft left, members of the Tribune group like Louise Hay and Justin Madders, and people who are generally considered the conscience of the party.
Andy Burnham's been blocked by the Labour Party from standing here as an MP. What do you think about that? Is that the fair decision?
It don't really interest me, at the moment with the politics. It's all a bit up in the air, innit, with everything going on in the country. So, yeah, it don't really interest me. One's been taken out, another one's going to come in, and that's that.
It's ridiculous, because I think Andy Burnham do really good, because he does good for Manchester.
Why do you think the Prime Minister didn't want him to stand as MP?
Because he'd end up taking his job off him.
I don't think they'll have much effect around here anyway now. I think everyone's lost confidence in the Labour Party, and I think a lot of people are going to reform.
How do you feel about Andy Burnham not being allowed to stand as an MP here?
I'm not too bothered. In fact, I'm actually quite pleased. Because round here they are a little bit to vote for Andy Burnham, which would have meant that reform wouldn't have got in possibly, and I'm all for reform. So I'm quite pleased about it.
The letter itself is a devastating read for anyone in the Starmer camp. It describes the decision to block Burnham as having no legitimate reason and causing a huge amount of anxiety and anger. That is political speak for you've royally messed this up. These MPs are worried, properly worried, that by sidelining the most recognisable face in northern politics, the party is signalling that it doesn't value local talent or local voices. It sends a message that the only way to get ahead in Starmer's Labour is to be a quiet, compliant passenger on the Keir Express. And let's look at the timing. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Starmer's poll ratings are currently lower than a limbo dancer's belt. He's navigating a cost of living crisis that refuses to quit, and he's facing a looming set of local and devolved elections in May. To pick a fight with your own mayor in your own heartland right now is like trying to fix a leak in your roof by throwing bricks at it. The treacherous MPs aren't being treacherous to the party. They feel they are being loyal to the party by trying to save the Prime Minister from his own worst instincts. While the internal letter is damning, the public optics are even worse. If the MPs are the jury, the voters of Gorton and Denton are the executioners. Gorton and Denton is the kind of seat that defines Labour heartland. It's a mix of gritty urban streets and leafy suburban patches, a place where people expect their MP to understand the price of a pint and the struggle of a commute. Andrew Gwynn, the outgoing MP, held it with a healthy majority of 13,000 in 2024. Under normal circumstances, Labour would be cruising. But these are not normal circumstances. By blocking Burnham, the NEC has created a vacuum. And as any physics teacher or cynical politician will tell you, nature abhors a vacuum. Into that space steps the Green Party, who are looking to capitalise on the Gaza factor and general left-wing disillusionment, and of course the Reform UK juggernaut. Without a big beast like Burnham to anchor the campaign, Labour is left scrambling for a candidate who can generate even a fraction of that excitement. Names like Bev Craig and Julie Reid are being floated, but let's be real, they aren't Andy Burnham. The fear among senior Labour figures, the ones speaking anonymously to the Times because they value their careers, is that they could actually slip to third place. Imagine the headlines. Government party collapses to third in Heartland seat. It would be a catastrophe of epic proportions. It would turn Keir Starmer's iron grip on the party into a punchline. The MPs who signed the letter know this. They see the iceberg. They're just shouting at the captain to turn the ship before the gift to reform becomes a permanent reality. But why is Starmer so afraid? Is it just about the money, or is there a deeper, more Machiavellian plot at play? To understand Keir Starmer, you have to understand that he is a man of the process. He loves rules, he loves committees, and he loves stability. To him, Andy Burnham is a variable. He's unpredictable. He speaks his mind. He has a direct line to the voters that doesn't go through a focus group in Westminster. In short, he's everything Starmer isn't. The Prime Minister's allies have been running a Stop Andy Burnham campaign for months. They know that if Burnham gets into Parliament, the countdown to a leadership challenge starts. Under Labour rules, you need 80 MPs to back a challenge. Right now, Starmer is safe because the alternative, Burnham, is literally barred from the room. By keeping him in Manchester until his term ends in 2028, Starmer is essentially trying to run out the clock on his own unpopularity. But here's the flaw in that plan. You can't suppress talent forever. It's like trying to keep a beach ball underwater. Eventually, it's going to pop up, and it's going to hit you in the face. By offering Burnham a path back in 2027, a rumour circulating in the lobby, Starmer is trying to dangle a carrot. But Burnham is a smart rabbit. He knows a carrot on a string when he sees one. He's already declined that offer, preferring to keep his options open and his reputation as the rebel intact. The drama isn't just about two men, it's about the soul of a movement. Let's look at the unions, the traditional bankers of the Labour Party, and where they stand in this civil war. You can ignore backbenchers for a while. You can ignore the mayor of a northern city for a bit longer. But you cannot ignore the people who pay the bills. The trade unions, the historic backbone of the Labour movement, are fuming. The Fire Brigades Union, FBU, has already come out and said they will fiercely resist any attempt to carve out senior politicians like Burnham from democratic processes. Think about that. One of your biggest financial and organisational backers is using words like carve out and stitch up. The GMB and USDR unions were represented on the NEC panel that blocked Burnham, and while they supposedly voted with the leadership, the rank-and-file members are a different story. The control freakery emanating from Downing Street is starting to alienate the very people Starmer needs to man the phones and knock on doors in May.
He's attacking Farage all the time, which I think is incredibly dumb politics. I found the speech completely bizarre. Look, it's not like I'm going to sit here saying Starmer's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Actually, what really depresses me about Starmer, I mean, look, most Labour leaders are pretty useless, let's face it. But this man was actually the head of our public prosecution. Mm-hmm. And if you want something that exemplifies the decline of concepts of justice, Starmer really... he is the epitome of why we're losing faith in justice, this sort of human rights lawyer culture. Just going through bits of it. And he's attacking Farage all the time, which I think is incredibly dumb politics, actually, because he looks obsessed by him in a really unhealthy way.
The unions see Burnham as a bridge. He's someone who can talk to the working class voter in the pub and the middle class professional in the suburbs. By blocking him, Starmer isn't just snubbing a person, he's snubbing a style of politics that the unions believe is essential for survival. If the funding starts to dry up, or the activist base stays home in solidarity with the King of the North, Starmer's resource argument is going to look very silly indeed. And what about the other kings? London's Sadiq Khan and the broader devolved landscape are watching this with narrowed eyes. Politics is often a lonely game, but Andy Burnham has friends in high places, specifically in city halls. Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, didn't hold back. At a recent Fabian Society conference, he explicitly backed Burnham's right to stand. He said he believes in the best team having all the talent, and even offered to go and knock on doors for Burnham himself. When the Mayor of London is offering to campaign for the Mayor of Manchester against the wishes of the Prime Minister, you know the wheels have come off the bus. This is a coordinated pushback from the regional power brokers. They see Starmer's move as a direct threat to their own autonomy. If the NEC can block the most popular mayor in the country on a whim, who's next? This mayor's rebellion adds another layer of suspense to the Gorton and Denton saga. It's no longer just a local by-election, it's a showdown between the centralised power of Westminster and the decentralised power of the regions. Starmer is playing the role of the Victorian schoolmaster, trying to keep his pupils in line, but the pupils have realised they've got more influence in their local communities than the teacher has in the staff room. As we approach the finish line of this political thriller, we have to ask what happens on Tuesday. The clock is ticking. Tuesday is the day Nigel Farage steps onto the stage. While Labour is mired in psychodrama, a word used by Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood to describe the situation Reform UK is organising. They are going to announce their candidate in the heart of the constituency. They aren't going to talk about NAC rules or £4.7 million resource diversions. They are going to talk about a Labour Party that is out of touch, afraid of its own shadow, and scared of the North. Farage knows that every day this story stays in the headlines is a victory for him. He doesn't even need to win the seat to damage Starmer, he just needs to come close. If Reform takes a significant chunk of the Labour vote, the narrative will be set. Starmer's Labour is crumbling. The 50 MPs who signed that letter will be the first ones on the airwaves saying, "I told you so." The suspense is building because this is a gamble of the highest stakes. Starmer has bet his authority on the idea that he can weather this storm and move on. But storms in British politics have a habit of turning into hurricanes when you least expect them. By the time the candidate for Gorton and Denton is finalised, the damage to the party's unity might already be irreversible. So where does this leave us? We have a Prime Minister in shock, a party in revolt, and a rival waiting in the long grass. The stabbing of Keir Starmer isn't a single act. It's a slow, agonising process of self-inflicted wounds and internal betrayals. Whether it's the treacherous 50 MPs or the disappointed King of the North, the message is clear, the honeymoon is over, and the real fight for the future of Britain and the Labour Party has only just begun. Thank you for watching.